Hey guys, it's Sarah. The movie review I have today, again, is a little older, but it's the live action version of Ghost in the Shell. Now, I've seen bits and pieces of this. They are playing it on Canopy, Canopy with a K. I was like, let me just watch it from beginning to end and see what they did. Ghost in the Shell animated feature film is one of my favorite animated movies of all time, period. Mostly because when it came out and I saw it, I didn't really understand a lot of the concepts in it. And that's what I loved and still love about science fiction and cyberpunk and, you know, steampunk and all of that, is these higher level, like cerebral concepts, like the idea of consciousness and what makes, you know, human experience authentic, blah blah blah. This was not that. This was not that at all. They basically dumbed down a lot of it to create high production value, high technology value, like Blade Runner, but not kind of remake. Because I've seen the original version so many times, I did watch a few episodes from the first TV iteration of it, which the first few episodes were kind of interesting, but then they kind of went off the rails. But there's a lot of concepts about AI and what that means and where our conscious thoughts are generated from, or our ghost. But I'm skipping ahead. This version of Ghost in the Shell is about the leader of a member of a branch of a section of the government that's responsible for, I'm gonna say, tech-related crimes, because they never really explain their position within the government, within the country that they live in. So it's difficult to understand, because other than the whole, in the future, robotics and AI are a normal part of everyday life, that doesn't really help explain where our characters sit in the world that you're trying to convince us that they live in. It's a completely different story. It is not the same. The title is the only thing that is the same. The idea that people have their full bodies, aside from their brains, replaced with robotic parts is like the only other connecting thing, and how that impacts life experience, I guess. The leader of this group, which I assume that she is, but it's difficult to tell because she seems to take a lot of supportive roles, like fallback positions, doing research, interviewing people. Seems like something that people would bring to her, but she's out there doing it, so it's difficult to say where she is in this. It's her and her team attempting to locate what I think they're called a terrorist. He attacked the leader of a robotics company and appears to be the leader of a network of agents that are causing disruptions. So their goal is never made clear. You're pursuing a supposed criminal without any idea of what the point of his crimes are, because typically, you know, money, we want to change things, blah blah blah. None of that is the case. So it was very confusing as to why they were pursuing, like, what were they trying to prevent from happening, because it just seemed like everybody was running around in the dark. And the fact that this is supposed to be set in the future and there's supposed to be AI and everybody has robotic this and that, the fact that they did not make certain connections faster didn't make no damn sense. They're in the middle of this investigation trying to find out who's responsible. We don't know how long she's been on the job. We assume that they've been all working together for a while, enough to build a kind of camaraderie with each other. She starts having disturbing visions of things that she doesn't remember, There's a lot of references to her accident, and that's why she has the full shell, because according to them, she was immigrating with her parents to the country when their boat was blown up and her entire family was killed, and she was rescued and her body replaced. Now, why that would be the case, like, were they rich? Is that what we're supposed to believe? Because if that was the case, then she don't have to work. Because why would someone who's immigrating to this country, who apparently has no money, be given a new body? Why would they be given the opportunity to do this rather than someone who volunteered for this? Like, even in the future, people are still suffering from disease and all that kind of stuff. So why would that not be the case? Why would she just be picked out of this group? That didn't make no sense. Of course, I am impressed with the physicality of her character. That's a huge part of the character in the first movie. So Scarlett Johansson, I know, has those capabilities physically from previous roles that she's carried. But did they have to choose her? No, they didn't. Not the point. So they're going through their investigation when they're confronted with who they think the leader of this organization is a couple of times, and she's disturbed by memories that keep coming up. And she finds that there's a connection between her and this person, explores that connection, and finds out that she was the unwilling participant in a scientific experiment. And that experiment was to see if it could even be done. If a person's entire body, excluding their brain, could be replaced with robotics, and they still have all of their, I guess, personality and, I guess, spirit or soul, or what they call the ghost. Even as I say it, it don't make no damn sense. So she has that, like, personal crisis going on where she finds out that she's not who she was told she is, that she was actually kidnapped and experimented on and forced into a role that she never asked for. The previous version of her, I think she was a teenager. And as this version, I guess they made her older. It's difficult to say what the purpose of that was, but it wasn't like apples to apples. They picked a rebellious, sort of like counterculture kid who didn't believe that technology was the way of the future and that people should do this, and wanted to live her life differently, into this super soldier. I was so disappointed by that because y'all had enough, the studio had enough money to do whatever. There were so many better ways to organize the story and to tell this story. Y'all didn't even have to take out all the things. Y'all could just like move some stuff around and y'all could have made it work. The first movie, they don't go into it at all. She is a part of this team. She has the full shell, but they do not reference her origins or anything at all. In this movie, they reference it like every 30 minutes. Her past, the explosion, her memory loss, all of it. There were so many details I liked and appreciated, but if we had rebooted this movie exactly as it was, with these ideas of like free will, the soul and personality and where it all comes from, and the struggle in ideas between, you know, originality in this time period, that would have been way more interesting. Instead, I'm just looking at it. I'm just like watching the movie. I'm not invested. I don't care how the story ends. The idea of like a human internet by physically connecting human thoughts into a server, I assume, of some kind, to create a web of connections separate from the actual like internet, is like It's not that it's such a high level idea that I can't get it or that the average person wouldn't be able to understand. It's like pseudoscience. It don't make no damn sense. They brought in somebody for questioning, so you got to see what that looks like. You got to see the city streets, which was helpful. It was helpful to see the city streets, to see cars, the fact that people actually drive on them, what they're driving, people walking, people selling things, what are they selling. I appreciated that the team, I think, had a few more characters in it, which was kind of interesting. That's one of the reasons why I love science fiction movies, is the imagination that people have when they think about what would a city look like in the future. And I have to say, the streets are very clean in the future. That's something I noticed. I was like, it's not piles of filth everywhere like in some other movies. The streets are very clean. And there's not a lot of cars on the road. Little details like that that stand out to me the most, because the main plot of the story was so weak and had so many plot holes in it, and the character development, we were missing so many really important. Anyway, there were so many scenes that I felt like they included because they knew people would want to know or want to see that. The Major's immersions in the shell, that whole beginning sequence, which is iconic, including that soundtrack, but it feels like they tried to mimic it or mimic the impact of it, but either go big or go home. You know, this is supposed to be Ghost in the Shell, and it's not like Ghost in the Shell reemerge or like Ghost in the Shell rising or something like that, you know. So I was really disappointed. I would give it a 2 out of 5. This one, I would say the story is really weak. The character development is really weak. The production is great. The look of it is amazing. Don't have nothing to say about the music or sound design. So thank you all for spending your time here with me today. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you all next time.